My name is Svetlana, and this is our first panel, which I hope to be a series of panels, having a discussion with a group of panelists on the topic of divine masculine and divine feminine. So the reason I decided to had this vision to get people together was this common discussion that's going on around the world about an imbalance that's happening with the masculine feminine energies. And through talking to different people, I just kind of saw that a lot of people are facing these kind of issues. But I also saw that people are working on these issues from different perspectives. So again, my name is Svetlana. I'm the host. And my background is I've been working on kind of balancing out my energies for about a year and a half.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiara. I am currently working as a personal and lifestyle brand consultant, but I also have my own platform where I encourage women to live a good quality of life based on their own terms. And a lot of that has to do with balancing out and having a healthy relationship with your femininity.
And my name is Inese, and I'm conscious feminine mind and body coach. I work with women before and after pregnancy so that they are well nourished, strong, and fit, supporting them throughout their core recovery period for long-lasting results. So I am a co-founder of Back to Balance Academy, where we hold space for women who want to end their period pain and endometriosis attacks without using painkillers or having surgical interventions. I also empower women to tune in, connect, and create the body they love. So using natural laws of nutrition, a cyclical living formula, activating the body with fitness synchronized with their cycle, using intuitive alchemy process that allows them to get to the core of the seed.
My name is Svetlana. I just started working on my energies about a year and a half ago, and I started a YouTube channel about a year ago, just sharing my experiences, my spiritual experiences, clearing out chakras, channelings, all sorts of things spiritually related. And this is just the next stepping stone to my own development. So I'm going to go ahead and raise the question. Today's question is kind of in three parts, so take your time to answer. The first part is, what has been your experience with the divine feminine and masculine energies? How did you experience the imbalance in these energies? What did you do to help yourself? And since then, how do you feel?
I guess we could say it's been more of a journey for me. I guess we could all say that. We've all had kind of a journey with our masculinity and femininity. Mine started very, very young. I was essentially raised by my grandmother, who is my family's from Louisiana. My grandmother is like your typical Southern belle. So a lot of my fondest memories and my early development when it came to my femininity came from her. So a lot of the expressing myself creatively, a lot of the nurturing. I'm also the oldest of four children. So I essentially raised my siblings. So a lot of that nurturing, learning to be intuitive, much of that came from my grandmother and a lot of it from my mom as well. My mother she's the Gen X era, Gen X Americans. So she came from that very much strong, independent woman type of trope. And because of that, she was very, very strong in her masculinity. And during her time in the environment that she was surrounded herself in, she never really felt comfortable in her femininity. So my relationship with my mother, we would clash because it was almost like a lot of my femininity was almost looked down upon. And in the Black American community itself, you have, especially as me, we have a lot of inner politics within that community. But for young Black girls, there is this stigma especially in certain environments within that. Usually it's the lower your socioeconomic classes. I grew up pretty upper middle class, but still seeing from with my own eyes how a lot of it like, it's almost like you're not Black if you don't adhere to a certain type of Black aesthetic. And because of that, as young Black girls, you're either hyper sexualized, and that's what's seen as femininity, or you're hyper masculinized. And if you don't fit into either of those categories, it's almost like you're not seen as being Black. And so my mom fought really, really hard to kind of prove that by hyper masculizing herself, and very, very hard on me. So my journey, I guess you could say my journey with first understanding that I was on a journey came, I want to say I was maybe 19. That was when I essentially kind of moved away from my family. I was out on my own in the world, and I started getting a lot of that nurturing, a lot of that stuff. I no longer felt safe to be that. I felt like that was wrong because that's what I was conditioned to believe. So my mind kind of went to the survival mode. And there was a lot of me not necessarily becoming the strong, independent woman, but there was almost like a harshness to me. Like I felt like I had to be harder than what I was, as a way to protect myself. It was like people I stopped letting people see me cry. I stopped letting people like even getting too close. When I'd have like traumatic incidents that have happened to me, I would withdraw from people and didn't know how to process things. And I think that kind of became my life for a while, and I didn't realize how much internalizing and just not letting myself really flow as I was supposed to. I didn't realize how much of that really affected me until I was not long after my 27th birthday. So this was in 2018. And after years of this kind of robotic, pretty much running like a robot, I kind of came to a head. I had a mental breakdown, and that was the first time I realized that I haven't processed emotions since I was a child. And that was a part of that femininity that, so much of that was what my grandmother encouraged in me as a child, but over time I didn't feel safe doing. So one of the things that did help me a lot was, first off, therapy and learning. I literally had to learn how to process things and not just think emotions. I went so long not feeling emotions, or at least allowing myself to feel emotions, that if it couldn't be intellectualized, then it wasn't real for me. It was very much that, how do I resolve this? Like, what's the end game? Okay, if I can't come up with a logical explanation for this, then it's not real. So I ended up on this journey of really asking myself, how do I feel? And I remember being in therapy and my therapist asking me, like, so how do you feel? And I got mad. I was like, I don't know how I feel. And so that was, and I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been in this, not just masculinity, because I do believe that we need our masculinity, just I've been in a wounded masculinity for so long, and then just completely kind of killed off my own femininity. So in that, once I kind of started to balance that out, and it started with just asking myself how I feel. And, it's almost like once that femininity in me started coming back, I began creating things again. And it's how I birthed, my platform, the Cultivate. And I found myself once again, being able to be soft and be compassionate towards people. But there is this now new part of me that has logic that's applied to it. So it's not, there was always this, and I believe there's still the stigma where it's either or. You either have to be emotional or logical, when really you can be both. And as I said, it's still a journey, but I've been more at peace than I have my entire almost 31 years of living. I'll be 31 in May. Does that answer all three questions?
Yeah, unless I guess what I also want to get a sense is, how do you feel in your body now that you've done all that work? I mean, you did answer that, but I just kind of wonder if there's a bit more to that.
Sure. So physically, I would say when I was going through what I like to call my wilderness period, I grew up very, very religious, and so I grew up a Christian, Pentecostal Christian at that. So we stayed in church. So a lot of there's a story that sticks out to me a lot in the Bible, which is the Hebrews being free from Egypt. And so I looked at like a lot of my turmoil and stuff as that bondage to Egypt. And when they had to wander through the desert, that's the wilderness phase. So when I was in my wilderness phase, my anxiety would be so bad that I'd end up with bad back pains. I had trouble sleeping. I would have nightmares about things like, it would be silly stuff. Like I threw myself into work. So I would have these nightmares about like me missing an appointment with a client or something. And it would really I didn't realize that. I was, like I said, but I didn't feel any of these things because I was on survival mode, and I ended up actually having reproductive issues. I had a situation where I was at work, and a cyst that I didn't even know existed was on my ovary. It ruptured while I was at work. And I was really going to let myself just go back to work afterward.
Yeah, I had that. I had it happen twice. I know, isn't it funny?
Yeah, it happened at work once, and it's happened once while I was at home. Both times not fun.
Yeah,
and
it hurts so much.
Yes, and that hormonal imbalance. I am still working on that. But like I said, as far as when I say peace, in a state of peace, there isn't that fear that I was operating from. I feel like I'm able to operate from a place of love now, something that I've never really known how to do. It's either been duty or survival. Like it's never been I'm just loving life. And because of that, I feel like my body's able to flow. I feel like I'm able to, things that would have literally brought on a panic attack a couple of years ago, I'm able to just be like, wow, that's crazy. And while I'm still in the process of like balancing out my hormones as they are, I haven't had any episodes since then. I think the last time that I had an episode was in 2019. So does that answer it?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect transition to Inese.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why I knew that this would be a really nice combination of people.
Yeah, I really resonate with some of your features. That was like, okay, that was me too. Oh yeah, that was my outcome too. So yeah, pretty much. Well, let me just share. So from a young age, I have taken a role of a mother when I was 5. So by mothering my mom, trying to save her because my dad wasn't really treating her very well, and seeing that females are weak, working hard, and they can be easily manipulated by men, it completely made me to distrust it all, the feminine side or masculine side. So growing up without my father as well, with my 2 brothers, has also led me to step into my masculine energy, knowing, without knowing, I wanted to be independent, away from women that tell me what to do. I hated it when they just tell me what to do. I'm like, yeah, but somebody's playing with you as well. So I'm like, don't tell me what to do. So or exactly like with being with man, like don't tell me what to do. I want to be with man, whatever, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, I also didn't feel safe with man. So that also had to become like, I can do it all, I can be by myself. And also, yeah, for me to feel safe with myself, I had to act that I don't need any help. I want to be independent. I want to be only I can be trusted at this point, nobody else. So it really made me isolated from everyone else. So, and down the line, how did these experiences led me to understand about imbalance? It was only later finding out that I'd gone too far, that I'm just working, I'm pushing, I'm squeezing hours to earn more, literally 14 hours work. I come home, I'm happy to wake up at 6 a.m. and work harder. Even it was like, I need to make it, I just need to make it, because I don't have any support from my parents either, so I'm alone. So man, they are not trustable, so I have to do this. And yes, I started to have an issues in my reproductive system. So I was like, but these were not just slight issues. It was like all of a sudden I start to have these attacks. Like it's not just I'm having a period pain. It's literally I'm dying. Like I am on a couch, I'm vomiting, I have diarrhea. I am like, it's just like I want to die because somebody is like knifing me from inside. Like it was that bad. And this, as per all the symptoms, I understood that these are endometriosis attacks. This is why I also I co-founded Back to Balance Academy, because I want to address this, because I know that there's way out. So, and science now tells that these pains are even equal to heart attack pains. And this I was experiencing for a good like 3-4 years while balancing myself out. And it wasn't fun at all. Now I'm smiling, but I was like out. I had to cancel my sessions, my clients, and I didn't know how to tell them that what's wrong with me. And it happens every month. It was like, I hope they don't think I'm weak. That was, I didn't want them to realize, because I'm training them. I'm the coach. I am the one. And I'm like, all of a sudden I am weaker. No. They're not going to find out that. So I had to tell, I'm not feeling well, or nothing to do with a period pain, basically. So so that's then I started to investigate myself, like, because I lost trust in doctors. So they didn't have the answer for me. First of all my blood tests, everything is fine. You're fine, go home. I'm like, I am dying. Like, it's like, it's okay, take a paracetamol. And I'm like, it does not work. I can't take it because I'm vomiting it out. So I'm like, okay, it's again me by myself. I have to figure out. And I just learned my own way how to become my own healer. Because I didn't want them to cut me, first of all, and I didn't want them to give me a pill, because I tried a pill when I was 18. I was depressed for the first 2 weeks, and I was like, this is not my case. I'm just out of it. This is shit. Because I didn't even want to make love after this pill. I'm like, what is this? What's the point to have it? Yeah. So I started to read books, and I started to do my own research, and found out, only then I started to find out the theory about feminine and masculine. And this started to make sense, because it started to come up to the surface. And I had a moment when I realized, like, this is me. Like, I'm super out of my feminine. Literally, I don't even trust my feminine side. So yeah, I just started to, because I wasn't even wearing my hair open. I was like, no, they have to be tight. I didn't like the earrings or rings, or I didn't like skirt. I always like trousers or leggings, whatever, So, and I'm like, okay, feminine side. It was hard, but I was like, okay, put earrings on, have your hair out, like a little bit feel like feminine. And then obviously that started to come up, that I also need to allow myself to rest, allow myself to relax into this, because I was always into pushing, doing, let's go, let's do this, active action. I am, but to a certain extent, but I have to also allow myself to rest. So it also came in my creation when I gave myself permission. I founded like soul dance, that is a free flow of motions. You just move how you feel from inside. And that also was part of my personal healing as I was leading those ladies via Zoom. And now I have recordings left. I stopped doing it, but these are good materials to use it as a tool for the future programs that will be released. So, and that's this, like even moving hips, I started to actually move my hips before I couldn't even move them. I was like I felt like how, like, let's say how these women move those hips. I have no idea. I felt like a piece of wood, literally. And I had to go and allow myself to move those hips, like whatever how I feel. And it felt really awkward at the beginning, really. And it's about embodiment, right? So your body tells you what's wrong with you, like before anybody else. So this is that reproductive system issues. You are not wanting to move your hips. You are stagnant. You don't move. And this was like, there's a blockages of obviously that need to be activated. So this was my like to go. And also it took me a lot of intuitive coaching sessions to heal my inner child. And I was visiting myself multiple times back to meet her, to nourish her, to tell her many beautiful things that she needed to hear in that moment, 5 years old, 4 years old, 3 years, maybe 2, maybe when she was just born, and she was lacking all this. So yes, this was very, like, for me, it's like the journey from where I was coming to now. It's just it's two different worlds. Even now, I look at my mom. She's still in her bubble, but I am like seeing it from a different perspective now. Yeah. So this work, there obviously, like you said, Tiara, that there's still work to be done, and it's not like the end, it's over, you know. But now that I know, at least I can detect where I'm sliding more into the masculine again. This is my tendency always, like work. I was like, and then somebody's like, Inese, why don't you rest? I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's rest. Let's stop working at 7 p.m. or something. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. But still, it's like, it's very deep inside me that, you know, I need to do and make it happen. So yeah, it's just me knowing that I am in my masculine more and feminine, almost like I'm abandoning my feminine side. And the moment I do, I feel exhausted. I feel overwhelmed. I am like, I overrided my own energy, and I am no use of anybody. And also my creativity is lost. And this is where I know, like, okay, I have no creative thoughts in my mind. I need to rest. I need to go for walks in lunchtime. I need to do all these things that my feminine side needs it. So basically going back to nourishing. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm making notes because I can relate to both of you. So I'll give like a little background because I can relate to a lot. I didn't raise my siblings, but I felt like I had many children, basically everybody in my family, since I was very little. So when I entered my 20s, I already felt like I already exhausted that nurturing energy on these people who were supposed to nurture me. I was 5 years old. I think I was 5. My mom was like crying on my shoulders. I was giving her advice to get divorced. Like, that's crazy. So definitely, what I noticed, definite survival mode. My 20s, my early 30s, that was just like clear survival mode, working all the time, just trying to survive in my profession. Maybe about 3 and 4 years ago, I noticed something was going on with my cycle, and just researching, I came across this diagnosis of PMDD. I won't go into like what it actually means because I don't even want to associate with that diagnosis anymore. But of course, doctors did not even pay attention to me. wouldn't even listen. Like I actually went to doctors in 2 countries. So I thought like, okay, well, Americans are like this. Let me see how Israelis are. No, it's the same thing. They won't even look at you. I'm like, I have a list of symptoms. No, it's normal. Or try birth control. Yeah. Birth control seems to be the answer for everything these days. Yeah. I tried it when I had my ovarian cyst rupture when I was like 25, 26. I went on birth control for 2 months. I had a physical reaction, went to emergency room and stopped it there. So yeah, and definitely just dealing with all of that. I noticed myself becoming increasingly aggressive with people, just in general. Noticed myself, like my body was getting more bulky. Like I would do yoga since I was 25-ish, so 11 years, but I would have to like pause because okay, I just got a message from Zoom, but I think we're okay because we're recording. Yeah, and so I would have to pause my yoga practice because I noticed like the muscle, I would be gaining muscles and making me look bulky. But I started like even learning about these energies about 1.5 years ago, and I had like an awakening in the summer. And for me, releasing that was releasing trauma, but trauma from this life and past lives. Because what I just started seeing my past lives and seeing the connections from something happened in the past life to how things are manifesting in this life. So a lot of it was going to each chakra, learning the chakra system, how it works, all of this, and releasing it from each chakra. The root, the core, the throat. There's a lot of like self-expression here that gets locked. Sometimes it's like gotta release it from here. There's things we want to say that we pull back. So a lot of that was just releasing from the chakras and the past lives. And I definitely noticed myself just getting lighter. Like I still do yoga, but I don't feel the bulkiness anymore. I released a lot of my anger. It's still there, some of it. And still my impulse to be like aggressive or defensive, but nowhere to the extent that I was. And I don't even want to associate myself with that PMDD diagnosis. I just kind of recognized that was like energy being needing to be released because I would be like bloated a lot most of the month. Just understanding that we have a chakras, that the solar plexus, and that's where the bloat is. So if you release energy from that area, the bloat goes away. Sometimes it's just a lot of energy that you got to release. So just work on that. That's basically my story so far. But I also have been taking notes about some of the stuff that you guys said. Tiara, I think you said about this balance that becomes like you're logical and emotional at the same time. It's not either or. And I've definitely noticed that within myself. Like I actually had a situation, I think I worked last week or 2 weeks ago, where I used my masculine energy in an environment that was like all women who were just like chaotically emotional. And I provided the solution. And I kind of noticed like everything just flowed, but this is masculine energy while being around the feminine energy because it's all women. We're in education. Inese, I can definitely relate like working with clients and having to cancel because of the cycle, because when you don't feel well and you don't want to you don't want them to know. So it's like it's always like this guilt or embarrassment or shame that I have to cancel. Most of the time it's not an issue. They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. But you feel it. I feel it, that it's like it's something embarrassing, right? Like we shouldn't feel this week. We should be always on and be able to deliver and produce and go, 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 and not have a moment of weakness.
Right.
Where,
because it's that, I think that a lot of that has to do with when we are in that masculine, and, you know, I'm still learning this, but something I recently realized is that our feminine and masculine energies they're on frequencies. And I think that when a lot of these conversations that I see on the internet, they just say, oh, you rest in your femininity, or, you know, you take control of your masculinity. And there's frequencies. It's not, and sometimes if we are in a wounded or low frequency part of our masculinity, we still have those core beliefs of, I need to produce. And so if I'm not producing, I'm off balance. I'm not feeling good. And then a lot of that emotional feminine side comes in. And what I've noticed, and I don't know if you ladies feel the same, but I noticed that when one side of myself is wounded or imbalanced, both sides somehow ends up imbalanced. So if that, like I said, you know, that very much like you, Svetlana, that I can't produce, I can't go, then the anxiety starts kicking in. It's that there's that fear. Mm-hmm. And so then on the other side, that feminine side of myself, then I start having this emotional thinking, because how I feel right now is a failure. How I feel right now is that I'm not good enough, or how I feel right now is that I'm weak. And so, you know, my mind is going all over the place. And that's where I start getting those creative blocks. Very much like you, Inese, I experienced that a lot, where I can't create, I can't think of anything. And then I find myself going into a depression. And like you, Svetlana, I got to a place where I wasn't trusting doctors, because I'm like, yeah, I'm sad. I finally admitted it, guys, I feel sad. Okay, you're depressed. Here's some pills.
Here's a pill. Yeah.
Like, it's like, and it does go a lot deeper than that. So what's been helping me as of lately is really understanding, okay, where in my masculinity am I feeling broken or low, or where in my femininity? I literally had to make out a checklist of what are the core parts of my feminine and masculine. What are the core parts of myself? Obviously, that list is going to be different for everybody, and it's, you know, it's not limited to the things that we list. But when I look at that, I'm like, okay, what are the strongest parts of myself? For my masculinity, it has a lot to do with how I produce. Like I'm able to produce, I'm able to think very quickly. Like you, Svetlana, I'm able to be the logic in a room full of hysteria. I'm very calm under chaos. So those are the parts of myself that I'm able to do. And then on the feminine side, I am very nurturing, I'm very intuitive, and I'm very creative. Those are the three parts of my femininity that like makes up the core of my femininity. There's obviously other things there, but those are the three. So if I start to feel like, hey, I'm not producing as well as I typically do, or the quality of what I'm producing, or protecting. I forgot that part of masculinity, is that protecting, the protection. So I'm not protecting. And for me, a lot of that, it's not protecting myself. Because that's that feminine side. I'm like, I've learned I'm not protecting myself, or I'm not doing it in a healthy way. So if I start to see that, and a lot of this has, yes, it's energy, but we also have to be very, very aware of our energy. So I'm like, okay, if I'm not self-aware, or over on this feminine side, usually the first sign that, hey, something's wrong with your femininity is my intuition tends to go first, and I start doubting myself. Mm-hmm. I start having a lot of self-doubts. I'll have these hunches, or, you and I've spoken, Svetlana, so not to go deeply into the spiritual stuff, but if I even have sleeps where I don't remember my dreams, or I have like a completely dreamless sleep, I know something's wrong, like my femininity is off balance. And so now it's the working that. It's, hey, now I'm in that place where now you're recognizing these things. Now how do we work through them when it happens?
Bringing awareness. This is like learning to be aware about what's happening with you is the best gift that you can give yourself. Like what is actually happening and what's very unique to you personally, right? So you know that how you slip away, and I know how I slip, or Svetlana, for example. It's and for each woman would be something else, the key elements, which is beautiful to learn and manifest, like and put it in a practice. It's really like the best gift you can give yourself.
That's an interesting perspective, like that we each have our own sleeping patterns that we know. And if something is off, we know. For myself, I started noticing that sometimes I'm getting dreams that are like visions. Sometimes they're dreams just to release a certain amount of some kind of energy, like fear, for example. So I would get like dreams from the scenes of The Walking Dead, which I haven't watched in years. I watched only a few series, but it was like years ago. And now sometimes like that's what my unconscious mind, I guess, manifests, to use that, because I really don't like zombies actually. So that's the thing that I'm going to be most afraid of. So if I need to release fear, that's what manifests in my dreams. And now I'm aware of that. So I just kind of, okay, because a lot of times, when we have like a uncomfortable dream, we just want to forget it. But since I noticed that, I just like, okay, release the fear. Is whatever the body's experiencing, it's uncomfortable, just release it, allow it to be there instead of push it away or push it down, and release it. Just not overanalyze it even. Don't overthink it. Just that's what's coming through, just release. So it's interesting, like the sleeping patterns that we have is also very individual.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. When it comes to releasing, what are your methods of releasing?
My method is just connecting to the body, diving into it, just allow it to exist, experience the full intensity of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm diving into the depth of a pool, and it's like all the sensations are kind of like around me, and I'm observing this layer around me of that sensation, and it's like you release it out. To me, kind of makes sense if we think of like our light body is multidimensional. So the human is I'm going into the spiritual stuff. That's kind of how I make sense of it, though. The human being is a three-dimensional. And then we have our 4D, 5D, and so on. So when we release it and I see like myself diving in and it's kind of around me like a bubble, I'm releasing it into the 4D. But that's the trick is to not let it stay in the 4D. You have to release it further out. So like once I see it, I take time to visually clean it up. It's like you take a wipe and you really wipe it all out, because you don't want it to stay in the 4D, in the fourth dimension. There's a reason for that, but I don't want to use this time for that. It just, that's my constant process. I use breath work. I release it from the diaphragm, like very quick breaths, which are at this point they're like involuntary. It just happens. It's kind of I'm not even conscious. It just happens automatically because I'm connected to my inner self. So it does what it needs to do.
Yeah, good share and good question, to be honest, because when it comes to clearing and something happens to you that you don't know what it is, like I get feelings in my body. I feel heaviness into my chest or my stomach or my shoulders, my neck, and it's and I'm asking question, what is this that I need to clear? So, and the answer would come next day. Let's say we are practicing intuitive reading every week on Thursdays with my ladies. We have a circle. So it's gonna come up there. So throughout these sessions, they will tell me the clues that I have to do. But normally I am following the intuition and asking, what is this that I need to see from here? What is this that I need to address and see it? And then it comes to me through the dreams. It comes to me that on the YouTube, I just find this kind of some kind of clearing, and I'm like, click on it. And when I do it, I'm like, this is what I needed. Yeah. Or it's just like, or let's just go in the nature. Nature really allows me to clear myself, my energy. This is personally my very unique process. So be as much as I can in nature. So and imagine that whatever that energy that I'm holding and doesn't belong to me, I'm releasing into the earth. And when I release that, I imagine that I have a shower, just showering myself, white light, basically. That really helps me. And what I've done also have done cord cutting for myself, visualizing it, that I'm cutting that cord from the past lovers, from anything that was coming up, let's say also dad energy or anything that was still I was carrying, like dad's heaviness or mom's heaviness, saying bye to all of that. And I'm sure there will be some more, because it's a process, it's a journey. It's not like, we are done, sorted. I think there's still to come. And for me, Svetlana, lately is coming up the past lives. It's a new thing for me personally, but it's coming up like last 2 weeks, like through the dream. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. What's going on here? It feels so real. And again, in a reading, they were just saying, it's coming from the memory, which is very, very old, possibly from the past. I'm like, oh my God, I never had this before. So, and it has come to clear it out. So now it's my job to find the next tool I will use.
Yes. I mean, for me, it started very early, like right away when my awakening happened 1.5 years ago. The past lives started coming in, and I started seeing the pattern, and there would be like a whole puzzle of the whole story takes like 1 year to show. And like I get bits and pieces of puzzle coming in, and then there's another life, and then it's like it's more of the emotions connected to that life that you feel, or you might see somebody, or you might, there's a scene, and then you get overwhelmed with the emotions, and that's what you release. And then you see how it's connected to this life and why certain things happened in this life. Because a lot of times, like, why is this happening? Why did I meet this person? Why did I ended up with this person? Why did I have this type of family? Why these sort of events happen? And then, it starts making a lot more sense, for sure. I wanted to add another point about creativity. One thing I noticed for myself, and Tiara knows me a while, so she knows that I do have that artistic side that has been a lot suppressed. Lately, I've been exercising that, and I noticed that because of the amount of work, sometimes it's like I turn off my left brain, which is the logical side, and I'm just operating through my right side when I'm creating. It's literally like giving the left side of the brain a break. It's like turning it off. But it's like subconsciously that masculine energy is still working, because if you're creating, so that the action is masculine. So you're turning off the left brain, which, I mean, for work, it's overdone. Like the amount of work that we have to do, the stress, the problem solving, it's way too much energy, into the masculine. And, we got to do what we got to do. But then it's like, it literally feels like I turn it off and just dive into the right side. And it just kind of gives me kind of a break. That's kind of what I noticed, like, lately.
I never thought of it as beside taking a break. That's actually a really good analogy, because with myself, it's almost like how I've been describing it, very similar. It's like, okay, this is where I need you to be dominant at. So when I'm in work mode, for example, I need my masculinity to be dominant. I'm not, femininity is present. I have to be creative. When it comes to my clients, I'm nurturing them. We're using that intuition, but what needs to be dominant there? It's like, it's that problem solving. It's that, what can we produce? How are we able to grow these things? How are we able to monetize stuff? All of that. I've never looked at it as, oh, femininity, you can take a break until I clock out. If I choose to clock out, because like you know, sometimes I can get very, very caught up and have to tell myself, like, it's like 9 o'clock. You've been sitting at this desk all day. You can stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the idea of, okay, we can turn that off. You can go take a nap or something and let me go rest on this side of myself.
I also heard of a perspective, like, since we have two sides of the brain, the left side is the electrical current and the right side is the magnetic current, which circulates like this. So left side will just shoot electric currents, and I don't know how this happens. I just heard this perspective, and with myself, I'm just kind of noticing, because there are parts of my brain on the right side that have been like constantly activated. I would like feel here and here. And it's almost like it's been kind of going this way. So the magnetic current, just like planet Earth has magnetic current that just circulates from the poles. That's kind of the perspective that I've heard also, that's how our brain is set up. The electric current, the male dominant side, and the female dominant side, which is the magnetic energy. That's another interesting perspective, like when you think of everything and the way things have been written in the Bible, and what is it really talking about, and how do you integrate the two sides, or how do you activate, and why do you activate certain parts of the brain?
I have interesting as well regards my creativity, like, and what I noticed since I started to do synchronizing everything with my cycle, even including when I'm gonna be a creator, and when I'm gonna be more into the masculine. Basically, it's more assisting when we are actually synchronizing with our cycle from that perspective. So all the science that has been done probably about how the brain works, they haven't included this cycle, a women's cycle, because that was done most of the maybe on male, which is scientifically they are like male evidence-based mostly. Now lately it's coming up, women's are more involved, but cycle it has so much impact on also raising that vibration. When we are more like creative, is like when we're coming out of our bleed, we will raise and the creativity will start to come. You are more open to try new things. You are more open to absorb new information. So this is the time where you are wiring up. And when after the ovulation, this is the more like, so that's your feminine side. And after ovulation, slowly you are going to the logical, like organization, all like a little bit how it's going to be, what's going to be for the next cycle, what's there to improve, how to organize, what needs to be cleared out, what needs to be that. So now I've been practicing for quite a while now. And yes, improvement in my reproductive system has improved drastically. And also the creativity, we are more creative. I'm cooperating with Sarah, my business partner, and we both were, our cycles were synced, and we were driving. This is just crazy. But yeah, this is I want to just add that. This is gold for us women with our cycle. You have to hold on that.
I gotta track that. Because part of the PMDD diagnosis, what was that, is becoming aware or feeling the ovulation, which I never did in the past, and it's really, really, really sucky. It lasts for like 4 or 5 days right now, but it used to last much longer. I mean, to the point where I didn't have a break from the start of ovulation to the end of menstruation. I would have like 4 days normal. The rest I was just miserable. Now, since I did the energy work, I experienced the ovulation for 5 days, and then the PMS, and then menstruation. And they all suck. But it just makes me think, like, why am I feeling my ovulation now? Like, what is it about it?
Something to clear out. This is
Yeah.
just that. Keep questioning, and it will come. It will come. That's what I did for myself. Why is this happening? Doctors can't tell me. Give me signs, give me something. And then things were coming into my way, and I just took the action. I was like, okay, let me do this, let me do that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm on it. I'm on the roll. And it's every month is changing. And then I know if I've been doing something against my nature, my cyclical nature, I'm getting hit a little bit by that. Yeah. That's like undeniable.
Do you also practice like the cyclical living as well, where it's you have your cycle, but as kind of the seasons change, do you notice that there's kind of a change in even how your cycle is during each season?
I feel like I only notice that it's worse during the hump of the season, like the middle month. That's the only thing, that's the only pattern I've noticed, but I still need to kind of track it since it's kind of, I'm kind of healing myself. So it's kind of hard to track things since I'm still in the healing process.
This I've been noticing, like summertime, for example, I'm really feeling every bit of my ovulation, for example. And then winter comes, I feel more like I usually, for most of my life, I didn't have PMS. And now I feel my PMS during the winter time. I start feeling the PMS symptoms. I find I'm emotional. I'm in emo mode. I want to just go lay in my bed and be left alone. Like I don't want anybody to talk to me. And the first couple of times I was like, what's happening? But that's when I started noticing that instead of it's, yes, this is your cycle, but also there's the seasonal cycle too. And my cycle tends to change during the seasons.
You know what, you actually just reminded me. What I did notice is what you said, seasonal, is the rotation of the earth and the energy portals. So like we just had winter solstice. And winter solstice was literally the day my ovulation started was when winter solstice started. And the day my menstruation ended was the last day of winter solstice. Same thing happened. We had the Gemini portal, which was really intense. It was the same thing. Start of my ovulation and the end of my menstruation. So it's like on part, it's it's all connected. It's just time to release. So before it was just thinking, okay, menstruation is just something we're going to go through. Now it's part of the divine, the everything, the energies around us. We're not separate from any of it.
And just going back to your point about the releasing, there was something you said earlier, Inez, that really stuck out to me. You're saying that you imagine during your releasing that shower, it's like almost like a shower of light. I physically do that. That's part of my release process. I don't know what it is. And I guess now that I'm kind of getting older, I'm starting to understand it, especially with my family and our lineage and stuff, I have to be near water. When I'm releasing, I have to be near water, whether it's the lake in my neighborhood I have to go walk on, or sometimes physically submerging myself in water. And very much the same, like even when I'm doing cord cutting, I have to be in water, almost like rinsing. It's like rinsing that off, almost like a baptism.
Yeah.
Where
So
I'm just
you
kind
and
of
I met, we were living in an apartment complex. She was my next door neighbor, and there was a lake, like in the middle of the apartment complex.
That's how we met.
Yeah,
On
and
the
the next
lake.
place I moved to that she helped, like, she came with me to look at the town, and then I decided to move there. And the apartment I stayed at was on the river.
Good. Yes. Water, let's say Reiki healer ages ago when I went, she said to me, go and do Epsom salt bath after this session. So Epsom salt bath also clears the energies it's like extra element for it to actually purify and release. And I'm like, let's do it. And since then I've been practicing. I have like bulk of Epsom salt, and I'm just like, it's time for me to go. And it's actually good for, after, let's say, I've been meeting lots of people, clients and stuff like that. I feel like this energy around me as well. And so the water bath is like, and I come out of it, I feel like brand new. It's not just like, it's just like, I feel energy wise, it's my back. I'm back. My energy is back.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's also one of the medicines.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'll even feel very exhausted afterward. Like after I get out, I just lay down and I don't even realize that I fell asleep until I wake up and I'm looking at my clock and it's 10 o'clock at night.
Mm.
Lots of great information. Is there anything else? I'm trying to keep the panel about 30 to 45 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end? So just for anybody who's listening, I'm going to try to keep this as a regular panel, kind of once a month, getting people together. It might be the same people. I'm going to try to get some new people. Each panel is going to be, it's all centered around the divine masculine feminine energy, but each one is targeting a particular question to answer. And then of course, it just branches out into a discussion, whatever people want to share. This was a great first panel. It was a success, I think. Thank you for making it a success.
Thank you for inviting us on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it's healing for us and for anyone that will listen. I think, everybody has something that they can relate on, right? And get some information that will help them.
All right, thank you. Thank you, ladies. You have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Ciao.